comfortable at home.
Mine is great at home, but you know.
Yes.
So what are you saying? You're going to sit at your house and get your
it.
Is that what I'm here for?
On the road. I'll remind you. At least it's, and I think
You're quite fast.
didn't even have to say 1, 2, 3, click
All right, it's 6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you'd all please care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Second on the agenda is public comment. If there's anyone who would like to have a few minutes to comment from the public, I'll take that as no. So we'll move ahead to item number 3, which is student recognition for the Hill and Plain School in Northville Elementary School.
Thank you. So this evening, we have a lovely presentation by students from Hill and Plain and Northville. And so first, I'm going to call up Mrs. Calabrese and Mrs. Gallagher to assist with our presentation. And tonight's presentation focuses on student writing, which is one of my favorite things to do and is really an important skill for students to be able to express themselves. So, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Gwen Gallagher. I'm the principal at Northville.
I'm Kathy Calabrese. I'm the principal at Hill and Plain.
So when we started this last year, Mrs. Calabrese and I sat and talked about how are we going to choose out of, 300-400 students, how do you choose just a few? And we asked each of our teachers to give us one student in their class that really went by the ideas that our district lives by, the heart, collaboration, creativity, and focus.
And so we also included that the Board of Ed student achievement goal to increase the achievement of every student through high quality curriculum, instruction, assessment, and programming. So taking all that into account, and then Northville's motto and Hill and Plain's motto, and so there were nominations that the classroom teacher made. And then we took it one step further and we asked for the support staff and the specials teachers that see these students every week for their input as well. And then the assistant principals and Gwen and I, then we chose our final students that are here with us tonight.
And it's never an easy decision.
Never.
Because every student has a quality about them that's amazing. But we did have to bring it down just like always. And so we're excited to share with you our finalists. So Northville's going to go first.
We are starting. We're going to begin with Evelyn Johnson, and Evelyn can come forward.
Come on up, Evelyn.
Evelyn is in kindergarten. She is an all-around great kid. She is constantly supporting her classmates without being asked. I have observed her helping others with academics, asking how they're feeling when they've been out sick, asking me if I need any help without looking for recognition. Evelyn works well together in groups and is always fair. She works hard with her academics, loves to participate, and is not afraid to ask for help if needed. Evelyn is enthusiastic and comes in with a smile every day. I am proud to nominate her for this recognition. And that's from Mrs. Bazak.
To be there behind Evelyn. So all the kids have been practicing, and she's going to nail it. So she's going to read her book all about Northville.
I love Northville.
Can you turn the slide?
Yep. Thank you.
I love playing with my friends.
Show them the picture.
I love Miss Gallagher and my teacher.
We did not prompt her to say that.
I love to read and write.
need
back.
one little picture, Evelyn. Evelyn, you get this certificate for showing creativity, focus, heart, and collaboration. Please come in. So hold this along with your book. There you go. Come on in.
How about I just use my phone?
You ready, Evelyn? Evelyn, you ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Good job.
Yay! Our next student that we will call up is Barbara De Almeida Reese. She is in first grade. She is in Mrs. Mooney's class. In our first grade room, we often talk about integrity, doing the right thing even when no one is looking. That is Barbara. Her heart is genuine. Her heart is caring. Her heart is loving. It just is. It is all those things without an adult reminding her of what it means to be a good friend or student. Her heart is creative, as she's always sketching her thinking as she learns. Her heart is brave as she moves through life, loving her family and her family loving her. Barbara is a leader among her friends. She doesn't wait to be asked to help. She will see a friend struggle, and in her very kind, sweet Barbara voice ask, "Do you need anything?" Her heart is generous. Barbara's light always shines, and we are all lucky to receive it. She makes herself, her parents, me, and New Milford proud each and every day.
Mrs. Mooney's gonna come up. You're gonna be talking a lot about her in this book. All right, go ahead.
All About Northville. Written and illustrated by Barbara. Chapter 1. The Building. When you walk into Northville, you will see the lost and found and some books. Then you see the office where the principal works. The hallways are orange, white, green. Room 19, my classroom, has sound on the wall and a lot of numbers and a lot of artwork.
Picture.
Good.
Chapter 2, The Principal. Her
Wait,
name-
wait, dun, 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 dun. What are they gonna say?
Chapter 2, The Principal. Her name is Miss Gallagher. She does the announcements with 2 kids. She works in there. She does shout-outs, and she is kind. Chapter 3, Miss Minnie. Miss Minnie is kind. She is the best teacher. She does a lot of artwork. She does fun things. Her favorite color is green. She likes Cheez-Its. She is a great dancer.
100% prompted. Great dancer. Sorry, Barbara.
She loses her remote. She has lots of glasses. Chapter 4. The kids. The students at Northville, they are really lovely, they are really helpful. They do the right thing. They are good at art. Chapter 5, the best part. The best part of Northville is art and reason. They're the best because they are fun. All about the author. Barbara lives in New Milford, Connecticut. She lives with her mom and dad, sister, and 2 brothers. One is older, the other is the same age as her. In her free time, she likes to have fun. She enjoys her 4 new friends. She has a computer that lights up with rainbow dots on it. When she grows up, she will be an art teacher and a teacher.
Very good.
Your hard work. You can hold that along with your book. Now we'll take a nice picture. Mrs. Mooney and Scalger.
1, 2, 3, cheese.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, we have Lucasen Champ. Lucasen can come on up. Lucasen is in 2nd grade, and he is in Mrs. Pilla's class. So for focus, Luke is a dedicated and focused student who enjoys the learning process. He makes meaningful connections throughout the day, integrating new knowledge into his prior learning and personal experiences. As an active and attentive listener, Luke often experiences light bulb moments, and he connects academic concepts to his own life. Collaboration. Luke is a collaborative team player in the classroom who works well with all of his peers. He actively contributes to brainstorming sessions, ideas, turn-in partnerships, and fosters a positive dynamic that brings out the best in those he works with. Heart. Luke builds strong and positive relationships within our classroom community, connecting well with both teachers and peers. He is consistently respectful and thoughtful, valuing the diverse opinions, skills, and contributions of others. Luke demonstrates understanding toward his classmates, offering support to friends in need. As a creative problem solver, he helps foster a caring and inclusive environment where everyone feels a sense of belonging. Lucasen Champ.
And Miss Pilla is not feeling well. She's at home, but she is online, FaceTiming. So we're going to keep her back there. All right, Luke. So I never really, so Barbara did an all about, or no, she just wrote a story a narrative about school. Barbara did an all about, and then in 2nd grade they were learning poetry, so Lucasen did a poem. What kind of a poem did you do?
Acrostic poem.
Acrostic poem. Great.
N is for this place to go. O is old friends. R is right place to go. T is taught by a great teacher. H is happy times. V is very cool mascot. And I drew Nessie.
Perfect.
I, in this school there are great kids. L, loving kids learn. L, loving people. E, excellent readers.
You can hold that with your acrostic poem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You ready, Lucasen? Ready? And cheese.
Next, we will honor students from Hill and Plain School. We will start with Parker Bailey. Parker is in Mrs. McCoy's kindergarten class.
She's ready.
I'm going to say a few words about Parker. Parker is such an empathetic and compassionate girl. She's always willing to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. Parker is a strong reader and writer. She loves sharing her reading with the class. Parker truly lives by our school's core values. She is an absolute pleasure to have at Hill and Plain School.
I love school because it is fun. I like to play on the slides. My friends are kind. I like my teacher. APS is great.
And that was what she loved about Hill and Plain.
All right, Parker, here's your official certificate. We'll take your picture.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, cheese.
Thank you.
Next up,
Next up, we have our first grader from Miss Orletsky's class, and it's Rain Elise Urania. Rain Elise is a shining star in first grade. She approaches learning with unwavering focus and boundless imagination. Her creativity shines through her vibrant drawings and focused problem-solving skills. Rain Elise possesses a kind and compassionate heart, always lending a helping hand to her classmates and celebrating their successes. She works seamlessly with everyone, fostering a warm and inclusive environment in the classroom. Rain Elise truly embodies a well-rounded student with a zest for learning. You can move up here if you want to get her a little closer.
There you go.
There you go.
Do you know about school? Let me tell you about my school. Milford School is in New Milford, Connecticut. It has 399 students. It has preschool to second grade. Plain School has lots of teachers. My kindergarten teacher is Miss Borelli. My first grade teacher is Miss Orletsky. The principal is Miss Calabrese. The principal is Araconis. They help us. At Plain School, I matter, you matter, school matters. Thank you for reading my book.
Certificate, you can hold that with your book and take a nice picture.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, cheese.
And our second grader from Hill and Plain, we have Tony Cruz. Tony is a student in Mrs. Nash's second grade. He is one of the most hardworking, diligent, and kind students that I have ever had the pleasure of teaching. He puts 100% effort into everything he does. Whenever help is needed, Tony is the first to jump up and offer assistance. He is seen as a leader and is so well liked by all of his peers. Tony's a born reader who comes to school with a tote bag full of books each day. He enjoys working both independently and as part of a collaborative group. He is an amazing learner and a joy to have as part of our classroom family.
all right, so Tony's been working on poetry just like the second graders at Northville, and so his poem is, what kind of poem did you write?
Haiku.
A haiku.
Haiku.
All right, go ahead, take it away.
Hill Plain School and haiku poems. I just love to read Bad Kitty books and Dogman alone or with friends, solving word problems, using strategies each day. Math is fantastic. Writing nonfiction poems and stories as well. Authors hard at work. So many kind friends. Hill and Plain is a good place. Learning is good here.
Congratulations.
You ready? 2, 3, cheese. Good job.
So on the days where it might be, sometimes we have hard days, right? And then when we see this, this is a reminder of why we do what we do. So thank you especially to our families who came out to support our children and our teachers and our administrators, of course. We loved having the students present to us and show us what their writing is about these days. Thank you for that. So let's give them one more round of applause. Families and the children, you don't have to stay for the whole time. You're welcome to, but you can go also if you'd like at this time.
Can you get any cuter than that? I mean, come on.
A little marketing here would help.
It was painted over there.
It doesn't become interesting. Now it is.
Yeah, I missed this, so
Let's wait for a minute.
That was really great. Really great.
It was just so
Amazing.
smiling ear to ear.
it's hard for them. It's hard. So, I mean, it's to get up and do this as we see this. So it's very difficult.
Me and me. Well done.
We've heard a meeting like that every time.
Oh, of course I know.
Only when I'm
Only when you're here.
only when I'm filling in.
Wow.
Do all the modules. I still have some questions, but
I think she left that smile in the classroom. No, not at all.
Where's the agenda to start? Like, these all the minutes are huge.
It's right here.
My laptop for a change.
In a way, yeah. She did.
So, still part of the minutes.
bye guys. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, let's move on then to the PTO report. Oh, it's right there, I think.
Or number 4.
There's no.
It's an invisible microphone. It's after this.
Like.
Oh, excuse me, what?
I would say I would let them go first.
Yeah, let's let the PTO report go first.
Yeah.
Which one?
Who wants to follow that show?
So at our pre-K to 5 schools, we were happy to celebrate Literacy with Read Across America Day activities. A huge thank you to our guest readers, book fairs, and our upcoming authors events. At Northville, they're busy planning some fun events for May, including bike night and a budget truck event. Hill and Plain hosted their annual readathon, and the winners will be celebrating their success with pancakes with the principals in their PJs. The Hill and Plain Book Fair was a huge success, and they were able to put $2,000 worth of books into the school library, classrooms, and the hands of kids who might not otherwise have been able to afford a book. At the 3rd grade and up levels, spring has been very busy. At Sarah Noble, there are multiple assemblies and author visits planned. The PTO will also be sponsoring events including an ice cream social at the student art show and pedometers for the 5th grade walking project. Grade level dances and end of the year activities are in the works at Scaticoke. There's also the 2nd annual Battle of the Bands type competition, which has been renamed the Stage of Dreams, and senior activities upcoming at the high school. At the townwide level, we are still fundraising for our annual senior scholarships. We are currently collecting clothing and shoes in the drop box in front of John Pettibone through the end of April. And we will also be having a fundraiser for Yankee tickets on the May 3rd game. So when you're doing your spring clean this spring, please consider donating your clothes and shoes to the drop box in front of John Pettibone. Speaking of the senior scholarship, we just wanted to remind all parents of seniors that in order for your student to be eligible, the parent must be a current paid member of the PTO, and applications are now available on Naviance, and the deadline to submit the applications is April 4th.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go back to what I skipped, which was the presentation of the New Solutions K-12 Special Education Opportunity Review findings, please.
Are we doing that? I was just going to say, I was wondering if we could do the student representatives report first, if that's okay.
Good idea.
Is that okay?
I don't have a problem with it.
All right.
Thank you.
So at Sarah Noble, on Wednesday the 5th, they had their annual One School, One Book Day. Every class read the book Salt in His Shoes, Michael Jordan in Pursuit of a Dream. This highlights dedication, growth mindset, and perseverance. Our 4th grade students were able to travel through time and meet hear, and learn about women that made a difference. Finally, yesterday for St. Patrick's Day, our students were treated to a parade by the bagpiper, Mr. Jonathan Hankin, and a Irish dancing assembly featuring the Throne Academy dancers that go to Sarah Noble. For Northville, there was no input. And at Hill and Plain, they've been on track for students working on grade level achievements supported by core values. The month started with a whole school assembly learning about integrity, and free books were given out to continue encouraging reading and books to every student.
Mrs. Gatherfield recently welcomed Ed Geary to speak to all students, and he also did a special workshop with his students for a change group. Several of their music groups went on a field trip to New Milford High School, which included the strings and the 8th grade chorus. And the students from the band, orchestra, and chorus attended the Northern Regional Music Festival in Simsbury. And New Milford High School, their theater is playing Legally Blonde, and they're having shows March 21st at 7 p.m. and March 22nd at 3 p.m. They also had a St. Baldrick's fundraiser, which raised money for cancer on the 10th, and the Brave the Shave event, which was a huge success. The Tea Club is having a reinvented dress program where gently used prom dresses are available for students to shop and take home for free. Suits, shoes, and accessories are also available free of charge, and SAT exams will take place March 19th and 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So used to clapping.
No.
Clapping for kids is what we do, right?
It's cool for clapping.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys as always.
All right, now the presentation.
Yes, let's do
Very
it.
good. Okay.
So I will begin with a little bit of background. Beginning in July 2024, we embarked on a project called the Special Education Opportunity Review. We contracted with New Solutions K-12, and we conducted this work in cooperation with New Solutions K-12, and finally received the findings in December. And so our presentation tonight by Nathan Levinson, who you'll see up on the screen, will be an overview of the findings of our Special Education Opportunity Review. And he is the executive director, I don't want to use the wrong term, of New Solutions K-12. He has been both a superintendent and a board member, so he understands both sides of that part of public education. He's an author, a speaker. He has consulted with over 250 school districts in more than 30 states, as well as around the world. He works with state departments of education, foundations, legislators, and educational technology companies. So that's a brief introduction of Nathan Levinson, and I'm going to turn it over to him to do a review of our special education findings.
Thanks so much. Can you both hear me?
Yes. So, yeah.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Just fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Jen, for that kind introduction. You did leave out one part of my resume. I also spent 6 years on the school board, so I've thought about these issues from that perspective as well. I'm very excited to be with you tonight to share what we learned about the school system, celebrate a number of great things that are already taking place, share a short list of opportunities for improvement. I'll do all that in about 10 to 12 minutes and then leave some time for any questions you have. So with that, let me share my screen. Let's see if this is going to work.
There you go.
Great. Are you seeing it in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So, hopefully you are seeing the slide that says project goals.
Yes.
Alrighty. So here's the 3 things we set out to do. First, to develop a deep understanding of current practices as they relate to both students with special needs and all students who are struggling, because all districts have kids who struggle, some with disabilities and some without. Second, to compare and contrast your current practices to align it with the best practices. And thirdly, to identify a very short list of opportunities that would both help raise achievement for students and also improve the work-life balance for your teachers and staff. With that being our goal, you know enough about me, so I'll move past my bio. And let's start with the good news, because good news never gets enough attention, and certainly there are many things worthy of commendation. The first is that the district has begun to embrace the science of reading at the elementary level, both from a curriculum and instruction point of view, but also teachers really seem to be supporting it. We saw it in practice and in action, and this is an incredibly important commendation, particularly for kids who struggle academically. Multi-sensory reading classes, which are at the elementary level in particular, providing excellent targeted extra time instruction taught by folks who are highly skilled in the teaching of reading. This is a very powerful intervention, and it was really great to see that it is available to many students. Third thing we saw that we wanted to commend was that some special education teachers who had particular skills in a particular area or subject were allowed to specialize, which is both great for the staff and great for the students. We'll come back to this one a bit more. We also wanted to commend that the district took a very integrated approach to supporting kids' mental health needs, integrated both within the district across multiple disciplines and also integrated between the community and the school itself. We wanted to acknowledge what we heard from so many people who interviewed, that the superintendent has brought a sense of stability and trust to the district after a great deal of leadership turnover. So I think that is an important commendation and a bedrock for being able to move forward. And what we saw everywhere we looked and everybody we met, teachers in the district, incredibly hardworking, caring deeply about all of their students. These 6 commendations really do lay a very strong foundation for being able to move to the next step of how do you get even better yet. We have 5 opportunities. I won't read them this moment. We'll walk through each one of them one at a time. So opportunity number 1. This is to increase general education teacher capacity and confidence to better meet the needs of all students who struggle, including those with mild to moderate disabilities, through expanded instructional coaching. Let me dissect this one for you, because this is an important one. If I'm a student with special needs, general education core instruction is still the most important part of my education. And the most important person in delivering highly effective core instruction is the general education classroom teacher. So this sometimes surprises folks, but the research is unambiguous. If you want to raise achievement of kids with special needs, as you improve general education core instruction, that will raise achievement for kids with mild to moderate disabilities, which is the vast majority of students with special needs. What we saw, however, is there is a significant reliance on special educators in the district as the primary teacher responsible for students with special needs. And this is not because general education teachers didn't care. There is a general belief that special education students benefit most from being supported by special educators. Obviously, special educators play an important role. But there is too much ownership being passed to special educators, not enough ownership coming from general educators. And we believe that is because too many general educators do not feel they have the skills, the capacity, perhaps the confidence to be that primary teacher. And to put this in perspective, very, very few general educators in this country get deep training in how to teach students with special needs. It's not part of the typical college programming. So they're thinking there are other people, specialists, who will know, special educators who will know exactly what to do. But what the research has shown is that good teaching is good teaching. And all of the special education best practices for teaching are also the general education best practices for teaching. So we're not asking or expecting general educators to learn two ways to teach. One for special ed and one for general ed. It is one way. It is a way that will work for all students. And what we are suggesting, or if we should suggest it, is that instructional coaching is the most effective way of building capacity and confidence in general education teachers to play a bigger role in the education of kids with special needs. So this first opportunity says, hey, we've got to build the capacity and the comfort of general education teachers to play a bigger role for kids with disabilities, and you're going to be able to do all that through instructional coaching. So that's the first opportunity, and one that will have the greatest impact on kids' outcomes. Now,
Nate, can I just interject one thing? Sorry, that I forgot to say. The
Yes.
intent of the findings and of your report is that it is cost neutral. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. Absolutely. Everything we have shared can be done in a cost neutral way. We recognize your budget challenges. So any place that we are suggesting that you may need to add something, there will be opportunities through attrition to reduce something, so that at the end of the day, all this is done in a cost neutral way. So the second opportunity says, even if we have great core instruction, students will need great core instruction plus effective intervention. So opportunities 2 and 3, we're going to talk about intervention. Opportunity 2, expand the reach of best practice interventions at the elementary level to ensure all students who struggle have access to extra time, direct instruction from content-strong teachers. What this is saying is best practice intervention has extra time, it has direct instruction, the person providing the intervention really knows the material. I think this very simple graphic of core instruction plus extra time leading to mastery really is a very powerful visualization of best practice. What we saw at the elementary level is that you had some very strong examples of the best practices. Because one of the really important elements of a best practice intervention is that the person delivering the instruction is deeply trained in the content. We use the phrase a content strong teacher. So if you think about at the elementary level, your MSR classes are taught by intervention teachers, reading teachers who are deeply trained in the science and the teaching of reading. That's a perfect example of a best practice intervention. So what we saw is that while you have some examples of excellent best practice interventions at the elementary level, we also saw that 2 students who struggled in the exact same way, but one had a disability and one did not, they would be served very differently. So general education supports on the left hand, if you will, on the top of the page. Special education supports are different at the bottom of the page. What the research says is that 2 kids who have the same needs should get the same intervention, and it is not necessary or desirable for them to be entirely different or parallel. So at the elementary level, the recommendation is to take some of these best practices and make sure all students have access to them. The other piece about the cost of these is the district has put a lot of emphasis on having small groups for intervention. And the research says small groups are not that important. The quality of the interventionist matters a lot, and you have some very talented interventionists. Grouping kids with similar needs is very important. But so we think there's been an overemphasis on keeping the group small, and that limits the number of kids who can have access to some of your very, very talented staff. So really trying to move past small is important and focus on the strength and ability of the teacher, because that is far more important. And then more kids can be helped without adding staff. The third opportunity is similar, but it really addresses middle and high school. And here, we're recommending to implement those best practice interventions. Same like the elementary, that they're extra time, direct instruction, content strong teachers. But where at the elementary, you did have a lot of examples of those best practices, there were fewer examples currently of the best practices at the secondary level. Again, if you think about what we're saying, extra time intervention in the middle school or high school says, hey, if a student is struggling in math, they need core instruction in math, their regular grade level math. They're also going to need an extra course in math intervention, catch me up in math. And they're going to need the extra time to learn the things they hadn't learned in prior years. What we saw at the secondary level is far less of that extra time intervention. What we saw is a number of strategies. One is co-teaching, which means 2 teachers are in the room, but just for 1 period, so there's no extra time. There are definitely extra adults. There's also some flavor of co-teaching where instead of a teacher, it's a paraprofessional. There are learning strategies classes, which are an extra period, but these learning strategy classes are not focused on direct instruction. They're very hard to teach a particular subject because the learning strategies class could have students from multiple grades, from multiple courses. So it's really not a teach me a set of skills. It's more help me with my homework. And yet we did see some very good best practice interventions in the middle and high school, but those were primarily reserved for kids without disabilities. And then there's a number of ad hoc and drop-in support. So it's interesting to us that you have a lot of options and a lot of ways in which you're trying to help kids who struggle academically, but particularly at the middle and high school level, not as many of them align to the best practices as we'd like to see. The fourth is to increase student access to highly skilled content teachers by shifting roles of paraprofessionals, enabling higher pay for your paraprofessionals while also maximizing the opportunity for students to learn from content experts. What this is really saying is we do have a fair number of paraprofessionals. They're not paid particularly well. They're asked to do a lot, not necessarily aligned to their background and training. And what we're suggesting is here to have, through attrition, slightly fewer paraprofessionals, which would allow you to pay them more, which would allow you to both invest in and recruit folks with the skills you need. And I think, there's paraprofessionals are deeply respected in the district. Folks really count on them for a lot, but the compensation has made it hard to keep and retain them. And the fifth opportunity is to review and develop, to standardize the IEP process through what we call staff specialization. If you think about a special educator, they're asked to do a lot. Teach reading, math, science, social studies, write IEPs, support behavior. The special educators have an incredibly wide range of things they're asked to do. Some of your special educators really, really enjoy and are really, really good at the IEP process. And for other people, it is the worst part of their job. And what we're saying is, if you allow people to specialize to what they're good at, not only will they be good at it, they will enjoy it, their retention goes up. And we also believe that having a smaller number of folks who are responsible for processing and managing the IEP process would then give you an opportunity to streamline the IEP process as well, because we did see a few areas in which the IEP process could probably run a little more efficiently and do it in a way that staff enjoy it and are good at it. I think this is just some quotes about how different teachers are and what they want to specialize in. We see this all across the country, this movement towards specialization. So let me pause there, stop sharing, and happy to take any questions you have.
I don't think you can see you, bud.
Yeah, I know, I was asking for Ryan. I know he can't see me. I am a special education teacher, so maybe I didn't know that. I'm kidding. Hi, Brian McCauley, a board member, but a lot of what you were saying speaks to me as a special ed teacher in another district. And you mentioned, you talked about something that I think about a lot, which is the co-taught system. Because in high school, the students have a lot of required classes they have to take, and they don't have the opportunity for that extra support they need, especially in like math and for writing. Do you have any suggestions on how that process could be improved? Because, and like you mentioned this extra study courses, but honestly, even those classes are going away because of graduation requirements.
Oh, great. I'm glad, one, that it resonates with you as somebody who's on the front line. So what we've seen and what the research says, that co-teaching, when done well, can be very powerful, but it is very, very hard to do well at scale. And even when done well, doesn't provide that extra time. So imagine I'm a 9th or 10th grader, there's concepts from 2-3 years ago that I haven't mastered. Mm-hmm. That will haunt me as I go forward in my education. And you can't go back 2 and 3 years during Algebra 1, during Algebra 2. You just can't spend enough time. So we have worked with hundreds and hundreds of schools to find the time during the day to teach the skills, that intervention class, to teach the skills that kids are going to need to master this year's material. And so it really is about looking at your schedule, even with the graduation requirements, there's always room. We've worked with a lot of systems in Connecticut, but the kids who are struggling are going to need that extra time to fill in the gaps from prior years.
You want to go next?
Go ahead, Wen.
All right, Dean.
I had a quick question.
Got a round table going here.
Early on, you'd mentioned something about how teachers, the general teachers themselves are probably more equipped than they think they are to teach for special ed, and especially the best practices. And then you went on to say that the methodology is not unique to special ed. It's good for general teaching across the board for all students. So I'm wondering if it is that way. Why wouldn't this methodology just be beneficial? If it's beneficial to both students, both special ed and just your general education students, and is it not currently being used? And if not, why not?
Sure. Yeah, so great question. So this is really a question that's answered by history. If we go back when special ed started, special ed was for kids with very, very severe disabilities. Like 1 or 2% of the school system had special needs. And that made it perfectly logical that you would need very specialized teachers to serve them. Obviously, over the decades, it's not 2% of your kids, it's 15 to 20% of your kids. The face and nature of special education changed a lot. But the culture and the norm that special education is taught by special educators was also reinforced by some of the funding rules unintentionally. And just through the decades, higher ed very seldom teaches courses to gen ed teachers on how to serve kids with disabilities. And what became is just a normalized practice of divide and conquer. No bad people, it was done across the country, but it hasn't served kids well. And what we're seeing is just pretty broadly, districts that have really closed the achievement gap have helped their general education teachers build the capacity and confidence that they are bringing those teaching best practices, which are great for all their kids in their room. And it really is a matter of history that got us to this place.
you've got a couple pages. You want to go?
No, I'm gonna save it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a couple questions. I've heard you say, and I see in the findings, something that has troubled me for a long time on the board, and it's something that is really hard to harness, and it's time. How we are giving our staff enough time to work on, to kind of have the skills that they need to. And I've always been concerned about the collaboration and being prepared for some of the tasks that we put on our teachers and our paras. And when you mention that there is most of this or all of this is cost neutral, how does that figure in when time is a concern, or do you think that it's just kind of moving around help me understand the time issue and the recommendation to that, because I personally feel that time is a real precious commodity to our staff and we don't have enough of it.
Sure, great question, and I think you touch on two related but slightly different aspects of what I shared. So the first is when we think about teachers' time and the stress that puts on folks, clearly everybody, and special educators in particular, there's a lot on their plate. So the two ways in which you can make managing the day much more rewarding and much more cost effective and much more impactful is two things. The first is allowing special educators to specialize. We have done time studies across the country. Some special educators can write an IEP 4 times faster than somebody else. Do you know who's faster at it? The people who like to do it and are really good at doing it. And you know who's slower at it? The folks who don't like doing it. And the part of the day that's most stressful is the part of the day you're doing the things you don't love to do. So one aspect of making special education life, special educators' life more sustainable is allowing folks to specialize. The second thing that will free up time and help kids is rethinking group size. So just imagine for a moment if I were helping 20 students, 2 kids at a time. That is 10 sessions to help them. And if I helped 20 students, 4 kids at a time, that's half as many sessions. I am freeing up time. Some of that time can be used to help more kids. Some of that time can be used to get other things done. So as a district, you have put a lot of emphasis on having small groups, which actually requires more time to serve the same number of kids. So I think it is a combination of managing the group size and allowing folks to specialize that would really both help kids and staff alike.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Tammy.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. I really appreciate it. You made a comment that I absolutely agree with, that paraprofessionals are not paid very well, and it's not just true in our district. It's true across a majority of districts, I would say. You had said to reduce the number of paraprofessionals so that you can pay those that you keep more money. How would that effectively help the students that relied on those paraprofessionals? Like, how would reducing the capacity maintain the workload?
Sure, it's a great question. And so I've worked now in more than 300 school systems across the country. So we have studied literally thousands of programs for kids with significant special needs. And in your district, the very large majority of paraprofessionals are supporting kids with pretty significant needs. We've also studied, when you go to what are referred to as out-of-district placements, the schools that when the kids' needs are too great that you can't serve them in district, these highly specialized schools out of districts. So when we look at these specialized programs and these specialized schools, what's really fascinating is how different the strategies can be for how do you support the kids with these significant needs. So one strategy says, hey, we're gonna have a lot of adults, maybe even one adult for every student. Now, because we don't pay the folks a lot, they're not specialized, we don't invest a lot in their training, we're not comfortable perhaps investing in their training because we're not sure they're gonna stay. So in many of your programs, you have roughly one adult for every student. And that one adult, being a para, not particularly well paid. If you look at other programs, very high quality programs even for kids with even greater needs than the kids you're serving, they will typically see anywhere from one para to every 2 students or one para to every 3 students. But their paras, 1, they're paid much better. 2, they are paid for training on a weekly basis often. So it is a strategy of fewer, higher skilled, better paid, better supported folks. And both seem to work, except, meaning that I've seen good programs with both those strategies, but I think given where the job market is today, the strategy that says we'll have a lot of folks but we won't pay them a lot is becoming harder and harder to maintain. So I think what you're doing isn't crazy by any means, but there are other ways in which people have approached it that I think are probably better aligned to what the labor market is these days.
Thank you.
Looks like that's, any more questions?
I just had a couple clarifications. Is that okay?
Please
Thank
do,
you
yeah.
so much. I just, on the material that was the draft that was sent to us, I just have a question on the actual, if I may, so I understand this correctly. I'm looking on page 12 of the student scoring. And am I reading this correctly of the percentages of students with disabilities of 3rd grade ELA, 13%, where we are on our scoring?
Yes. Let me check. Let me confirm it.
1 in grade 7, 3 students are performing at grade level?
Let me confirm what you're looking at.
Sure, it's page 12. First of all, thank you for all of this. The board has been anxious for this for quite some time, and I personally am very appreciative of everybody that came together to participate in this, because we can't do better unless we know what some of the recommendations are, and we all want to do better. So I appreciate that very, very much. But I had a question about the actual scoring on page 12.
So we can double check. This is the data that we got from the district.
Yeah, that I would say that I can confirm it, but I would say that that's accurate. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll hold my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, if no one else has any more questions, I think that we could probably move on. Thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Can I just have a follow-up? Just a follow-up?
Oh, yeah, please.
This is great. Do we have, this is helpful, do we have when we list the opportunities, do we have a method of prioritizing where we're going from here? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
I mean, a roadmap is great, but having a real roadmap, is helpful. So when I look at this, and this would be for a conversation that you would come to the board afterwards, of where we go from here. Yeah. And when we do not have a budgetary impact and you can move the deck chairs, please come to a board meeting. We'd love to have you, because I'd like to hear it line by line, because it's always great when we can move things around and not have an impact to our district financially.
Yes.
I'm a little concerned over that statement, quite frankly, but I'm optimistic that if that's the statement that we can move some things around without having to have a budgetary impact, then great.
I agree. Can I ask a question, Eric? I'm sorry, I didn't realize that this was the end of the presentation. Is this just first part of more to come?
That's my question.
Okay, or is this it? Because I agree with Wendy, it's great to hear these things, but then we need to come up with a plan and reevaluate. And my other question is, how much parental input did you gather and how were the parents selected to give that input?
I don't know if Nate's going to answer or me.
Well, I can answer that we definitely interviewed some parents. It's a small number, and the parents were selected by the district.
And they were divided into parents of students with significant needs, moderate needs, and mild needs, I believe. I think that was
There were 2 groups.
Yes. But it wasn't just, it was looking at the need of the child in the parents that were selected. And so to answer both Wendy's comment and your question, so part of the work around this opportunity review was to create a guiding coalition. And so within that guiding coalition, now we're going to begin to unpack this and prioritize and figure out what's kind of the first avenue, the next avenue, and chart it out that way.
I appreciate that. I think it's pretty fair to say that you could have 10 people read this and probably have 10 different opinions.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and that's important, you know, because it has to be a team effort. But I think there's a lot to do here.
So to answer your question, yes, we'll come back with information for the board about next steps and showing the action steps that we're going to take based upon what is contained within these findings. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else for Nate? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Let me see if I can.
The actual report.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's move on to the next topic, which will be approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve the following Board of Education meeting minutes. One, for the regular meeting minutes dated February 18th, 2025.
Are we taking these one at a
Separate? Yeah, there's 2 purpose, because one is budgetary, I would imagine.
Yeah, and
Looks like they're down for
Are
one
they,
motion.
are you doing it for one motion? Doesn't
Well,
matter.
and that's how it's written.
Yeah, you're the chair, sure.
And then the second one, yeah, that's written for one. And the second one would be budget hearing minutes, January 14th, 15th, 21st, and 22nd of 2025. Need a motion, please?
Seconded.
Second. Any discussion here? Great. Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Opposed? Definitely unanimous, okay. Yeah. And moving on. It's time for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So March in the state of Connecticut is Board of Education Appreciation and Recognition Month. So we are extremely fortunate in New Milford Public Schools to have such a hardworking and supportive Board of Education. And I have the great pleasure of working with all of them throughout the year. It's very important for everyone to know that these are volunteer positions. And they require hours of dedicated service. And so some of the examples are, as we are this evening at a full board meeting, we have 4 subcommittees. There are ad hoc committees that sometimes happen. There are contract negotiations, and there are hearings that occur. Board members also attend school and community events in support of our students and staff. And on behalf of all of us in New Milford Public Schools, I offer my very deepest gratitude to each member of the Board of Education for their care, their diligence, and interest in the success of our district. So thank you very much to everyone. I just have 2 other items regarding the budget. So on April 2nd, there will be a public hearing at the town hall regarding the budget for the town and the Board of Ed. And then on April 9th will be the Board of Finance's deliberation about the budgets. So those are just important reminders of some dates. Thank you.
Good, thanks for the kind words.
You're welcome.
Moving on, board chairperson's report. I have nothing to add. Let's move on to the subcommittee reports. First, policy.
Yep, so tonight we have 2 policies on the agenda for first review, one for certified and non, and the other for certified and non-certified staff. We have 14 policies on the agenda for second review and recommended for board adoption, 12 bylaws that are not required, but the board may wish to retain them after review for compliance. However, these are recommended for approval. 1 bylaw for second review and approval, and 12 administrative regulations. Of course, those are not voted upon, they're for items of information.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can I follow up on that? Okay. On the not required bylaws, Tammy, is it the recommendation that we're going to eventually approve them, or how are we doing that?
That's a good question, because in the past, if something wasn't really mandated, we were trying to.
If it's discretionary, we try and basically amend.
However, it seems that some of these we feel are important in our daily operations of our district and should be maintained.
I would urge, the bylaws are what run the board. That's what runs the board's education members in the way of their internal protocol. So that's why I'm asking you that question, is the thought that we're going to retain them if you don't hear any,
Correct. And the other question I have is, people may want another chance to review these, because once you wipe them, it's hard to get them back. And so, some of them could be turned into regulation, which we've been doing. Others can just go away altogether. But there are some on here, and there were questions about a couple of them about whether or not that they should be retained. So I don't want to gloss over this. I want us to be mindful when we're looking at these.
So you're going to put these back on policy, the bylaws?
It's up to the board whether or not that we would like to talk about them a little bit tonight, and if everybody wants more time to review them.
So through the chair, so the intent of what is on the agenda is that these would be the ones that would be kept.
Yes.
These are not to be deleted.
Right, that's my question.
Yes.
And so that's why you're not bringing these back to policy, because we're keeping them as they are, correct?
That is correct. That is the intent of how this appears on the agenda.
My recommendation would be, is sometimes when you look at policies, if you notice at the very bottom of policy, it'll say, last viewed at the board 2003. Well, that's not really the case. Technically, we are looking at them.
Correct.
We're not making changes to them. So we may, if the board so chooses to keep those policies as is in the bylaws, make a notation on the bottom of each policy that board members had an opportunity to weigh in March of 2025. Because otherwise it reverts back to the last time that we had that full conversation, and some of those go back 8 or 9 years.
At least, yeah.
And I agree.
Just a point of clarification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on.
Committee on Learning.
Facilities?
Did you have a-
Facilities?
No, not yet.
Okay.
First, the Committee on Learning.
Oh, I apologize.
We did not have a meeting this month so that we could attend the joint town council with finance.
Thank you.
Facilities.
Actually, I have nothing to report this month, other than to point out, later in the evening, under the informational portion of the agenda, Mr. Cunningham will speak to some of the projects that he's working on. And you can find that list on page 275 of our agenda, which is 3 pages before the end. So when we get to Mr. Cunningham, we're almost done for the evening.
275.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
There's no pressure there at all.
Just because you didn't have a meeting, so you off the hook. May I just say something? Just for the record, Chair of Facilities, still want to keep that on the table, that we want to keep the conversations going eventually, what we may do about central office.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't forget. So, I was going to ask.
Thank you for that reminder. We absolutely need to put that back on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good then. Operations.
We had a really short meeting, and there weren't any questions because, there weren't any. I have a couple for this evening. So it's the budget reports. That's where we're at. And there was, I'm sure that Anthony can cover any overview during the reports.
That's it. Great. Okay. And let's move on to items for discussion and possible action. We have from the monthly reports, Looks like it's all under one motion also. We have a budget position dated February 28th, 2025. A purchase resolution, D792, and a request for budget transfers. So I need a motion to approve the budget positions dated February 28th, 2025, purchase resolution D792, and request for budget transfers.
So moved?
Thank you. Any discussion?
Could I just have a couple follow-ups unless anybody else does? I don't want to take the floor. Okay, couple things. So on the purchase resolution, we have the materials from the insurance money, correct,
Yes.
Dr. Parletto?
Yes.
So I know you covered this at budget. You did mention, I went back and looked at our budget meeting minutes, and you did go in our budget and let the board know that that was something that you would be considering, you know, to capture with those funds. So we are aware of it, but I'm curious about the details of those books. Because I spent some time today looking it up and got lost into a whole tunnel of a lot of information. So could you give us a little bit of information, because there wasn't a memo about the background of those instructional supplies and, you know, what they entail?
So I think that you're talking about geodes,
Yes.
right? Bookworms?
Yes.
Yes, so as you know, 2 years ago, the state legislature passed legislation called the Right to Read legislation. And part of the Right to Read legislation was each school district in our state must select among these 6 or 7 programs. And so while we had revised our curriculum to include more phonics instruction, and we already had some programs in-house, we had a program called Hegarty, which assisted with phonics, and we also integrated what's called UFly into our instruction. We didn't have that core literacy material that was required as part of the Right to Read legislation. And so I had included it originally in the superintendent's proposed, when it was still in draft form, and then thought, well, we do have that money that's still in the insurance line that we can utilize to purchase these materials that are required. You know, it's a pretty fine example of an unfunded mandate, for sure, because the state will not approve your application unless it includes one of those 7 programs for literacy. And so these are those materials. Using the insurance funds from this year, because I didn't want to include it in the superintendent's proposed and add another $350,000 to what I would have proposed to you.
And can I follow up on a couple of questions? So how many are these consumables, or what they are?
It's a mix of both, so Holly can describe them much better than I can, but.
Sure.
Yes.
I looked them up, all of them today, and I think I found what I think I found what we're purchasing, but I would just like to.
We can send the link, as a follow-up, we'll send all the links out too. Yeah.
Boy, that would have saved some time, but I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Well, I'm happy to help in any way. The bookworms, we already purchased the K2 and want to round out to grade 3. So it's a K to 3 legislation. And, excuse me, so that's that cost, and we do have the materials for K2, which I'd be happy to share, and we're already starting the training for that. The geodes are the decodable texts. They're not consumable. They are texts that students will be able to then apply what they learn, through the various, the phonics program and the comprehension. So it's decodable text sets.
So it might be a book about cats.
Right. So
yeah.
And I appreciate that. My rationale for the questioning is, number one, these funds came through a little bit of a different manner, and I think that it's transparent to all of us to explain to the community what they're getting for their money, of this instructional support. And also, if we had consumables, my concern is, okay, the money's here for this, what happens the next time around?
We're not, the ones, I'm sorry, what we're purchasing are not going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, there are workbooks.
They may be loved and lost,
Right.
like any good book.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, these aren't like workbook pages.
Okay.
Then we would have to have that big cost the next year. These are sets for the classroom libraries, if you will.
And this is K3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so where are we in the instructional materials that we may need after this? Is this?
it.
Okay, I just see where I'm going, right?
Yes, this is it.
Chair? Eric?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Okay. One of the lines says that student-based healthcare, health center secretarial support of $58.79.71. Is that that's an adjustment to an existing number that was already there, correct? Or what exactly does that number represent? An adjustment or?
Are you looking at budget?
I don't know what page you're on.
I'm sorry, it's the purchase resolution D 792, just down below the books. If you get down after Ed Advance, the highlighted one. The one after it says, student-based health centers, secretarial support, excuse me, 587971. I'm just curious, is that number an adjustment to an existing budgetary number, or what exactly does that represent?
Anthony will answer that.
That is not an adjustment to a prior invoice. That is a new invoice for the ongoing support for the student-based health centers. It is not a new invoice. It is, I'm sorry, it is a new invoice.
It is a new invoice, yeah, because they bill it in it's not monthly.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it quarterly?
That's what I think that's what you're asking, yeah.
This covers I have the total number of hours here that was billed at, and the fringe piece. The date range is,
But it's by month.
You know, even if if there's an annual budgetary number and we even had a percent next to it, what it represented, then we would know what, what we're going by.
I think the rough amount per year was 30 to 36,000.
Or maybe it is quarter. We'll get that. We'll get that for you.
Thank you.
There's another question.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Sarah?
The choices that you had for reading materials,
Yes,
who came up with those?
the 6 from the Connecticut State Department of Education.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yes, yes.
But we actually, in being, again, thoughtful and collaborative, because the teachers had Haggerty and the teachers had UFly, and they felt very strongly because they felt comfortable with it, the choices were narrowed. And so we really only had 2. They called it the compendium. So it was, I can't even remember what the other choice was, bookworms and or something else. I can't remember. I apologize.
Because they aligned, the 2 that we had aligned with UFly and Haggerty.
Correct. And so that was done with teachers' input along the way. Just so
No, I think Mrs. Herring's question is where did the 6 or 7?
Who approves them? Who approves them?
No, where did they come from in the first place?
Okay.
And so after the legislation was passed, then the State Department of Education said, here are your choices. And then districts then did their due diligence and investigated what those were to see what aligned with their existing programming. And so we did the same thing.
And so what do the districts do that didn't have these kind of funds?
Yeah, they had to put it in their budget to increase their budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, that it is important. I just have 2 more line item questions. I'll open up to anybody else. Anybody? Okay. Anthony, I see here as of February, the end of year balance. When do we expect that to be deposited?
I have not heard from the town yet when they're going to process the transaction.
Okay, it's usually done by the middle of March, so maybe we could, I know it'll happen, I'm not insinuating it won't, but I would assume that maybe by next month's report we'll have that, and that capital will reflect all of that. On that, I had another question, and this question really came up on the precipice of another question. Help me understand how we do legal retainer. did we have legal retainer that was left over in the end of a fiscal year that carried over to another? Or when we do an encumbrance under the legal line, and let's say I went back to the actuals, the 4-year budgets, some of them list the actuals and some of them list just the estimated expenditure. When we encumber our retainer right out of the gate, how do we pay off that retainer?
So what's happened in the last few years is we remit that total amount to Pullman, who's our current legal provider, and they provide invoicing to the superintendent's office for the hours that they then accrue.
So to be clear, when we receive our retainer from Pullman, are you saying that we pay it in full immediately?
Yeah, the retainer has been remitted to Pullman right out of the gate on the first purchase resolution of every year. 2024 was the first year where we actually had a carryover amount that was unused. If you go back to 21, 22, and the 3 years prior, we were actually over in legal fees at the end of the year.
I did. So I guess my follow-up question on that is, are you saying that we had a retainer that was prepaid that was not drawn down from invoicing? In other words, if we encumber our retainer and it's $250,000 and we send Pullman $250,000 and we spend less than that during the course of the year because legal is a fluctuating by hour, initial it kind of an invoice, are you saying at the end of the year we carry over funds to another year?
At the end of 22, 23, there was money on Pullman's books that we had paid for.
So the answer is yes.
So at the end of 22, 23, there was money on Pullman's books for legal services, and we continue to work off of it in 24, 25.
I guess their definition, I'm sorry, the definition of retainer, I guess, is a little different than what my normal understanding would be.
No, I'm just, for me, my whole purpose was understanding, we're going into budget, and when I saw that there was that line has always fluctuated, to be clear, 100%. That is a very difficult line to nail down. Whether it be hearings, whether it be expulsions, whether it be negotiations, COVID, the fire at the high school and all of that, it's a very difficult line. So I'm not saying it isn't. I was just unaware that we encumbered the retainer and zipped out the retainer, meaning we paid for it, when those monthly expenditures are drawn against the retainer. I guess my question would be, why would we pay it in full if we don't know that we owe it in full? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Exactly, and it defeats the purpose of the fact a retainer is typically a portion of the amount. So if, for example, it was a $200,000 budgetary item, you'd probably put $75,000 to $100,000 of a retainer, and then as you get closer to that number, you replenish it. I would never want to put the whole.
But I'm not, I hear you. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I was just surprised that we had some money in that line when we did a transfer for $75,000. That's what I'm struggling with. We were over in that line item and had to do a transfer for $75,000. We had a shakeout at the end of that year that now it was, approximately less than that. And yet it's a good thing when we don't spend all of our retainer. I want to be very clear on that.
I'd like to say something about maybe the skill level of the central office.
Exactly.
Make sure that we're not getting.
You came in on budget, and it
So that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying it isn't a skill level, Dr. Perlotta. What I'm saying is that I didn't realize that we prepaid a retainer and could have it follow into another fiscal year. It has nothing to do with the caliber of our staff. I want to make that very, very clear. I'm asking how the funds were carried over.
Sure. Well, are you asking about the transfer in 23, 24?
Do we have funds left over from the last fiscal year into this budget?
We did up until March 1st.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be great for the public to know that. So because it looks like there's it looks overinflated is what it looks like to the public when you see it on a budget number. It looks like an overinflated. It looks like
I look at it differently. I don't look at it, I respectfully disagree. I don't look at it overinflated. I personally like to know from year to year, flow to flow, where things go. That's just me. Everybody else has their niche here. And so I was surprised that we could carry over funds from a retainer. That's all I'm saying. I didn't know it. Now I know it. You know, there was money in that line item, and I'm glad that we didn't spend it all. That's great. But I think that coming into this fiscal year, knowing that that line was there, I personally would have liked to know.
Are you concerned that with that being, that this year we might have even more to carry over if we have another good year?
It's not even so much carryover. I think that we need to look at all of our line items, and we do. I think we do a good job here.
Well, where does that money go?
It's just for transparency. I don't
But
think anyone
where does the
disagrees.
money go? And in other words, if I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times. I was unaware of times where we've carried over a retainer. So it was a surprise. So I wanted to verify.
But it wasn't held in our books, it was held in theirs, right? It was like you have some leftover money here to use that you're gonna be able to use the following year. Can they refund it?
That's correct.
How does that work?
Anthony, please.
Go ahead.
If I could, please. So the retainer hasn't been handled any differently under me than under my predecessor.
And how many years is that?
It goes back to at least March of 2016.
Okay.
But when you say handled differently, are you saying that if there was money left over at the end of the year, it stayed with the firm?
No, let me qualify my statement. The retainer and how it is remitted out of the gate at the beginning of the year has not been handled any differently under me as under my predecessor. What has changed is for many years we were over the amount of legal services, and that's how we ended the year. In 23-24 was 22-23 was the first time we actually had a surplus at the end of the year associated with legal services.
But in 23, we had to do a transfer for $75,000.
In 23-24, we did a transfer for $75,000.
In which of the 75, we didn't need all of it because it was a shakeout at the end of the year.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a memo about that I'll look for. Yeah.
Have it. So to be clear, if we have retainer with legal and we run under, which is a good thing, I absolutely can't stress that enough. That money stays, and we use that towards the line item of the next fiscal year. Is that what you're saying?
That's the way it
Okay.
has occurred for this fiscal year.
Okay.
And this could open up an opportunity when we do the shakeout through the end of the year for a possible reduction for next year's budget to meet the reduced amount.
That's exactly why I'm asking the question.
It's a potential. I can't guarantee that
course.
scenario that we
Stays with
can
them.
shave going into 25,
That-
26.
That's why I'm asking the question. This is not a finger pointing session, but the reason I'm asking the question is because if you're going into budget and we're being asked to find reductions, okay?
Yep.
This is a plausible explanation where the reduction is. Maybe I'm not making my point clearly. So that's why when I look at retainer, I'm not saying it's done differently. I'm saying this is a bit of an anomaly that we had money left over like that because we haven't been in that situation before for a while. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have not been
Thank
in
you.
a situation where we had a carryover retainer with Pullman in the positive.
Okay. Because our budgets for the last 4 years, some of them have actuals for legal and some of them has proposed and then actuals. So I tried to go as clear as I could on that. So that was my question. That was it. It was no big mystery because in a few months, we're going to be asked to really go deep. And I can assure you that everybody sitting here at this board is going to be looking at things like how do we protect the core of instruction? And you're going to be looking at line items like legal and things like that. So this is not a reflection on any practice. I was not aware that we could carry over a retainer.
So basically, long story short, we've identified a place where there might be some extra money for
Got
us
it.
to cut. Cool. All right, let's move on then.
But in the future, I am hoping that at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year, I know when you have rollout, you have your hands full over the summer. I know you have to wrap up one fiscal year, you're beginning a fiscal year. Maybe there might be a report to operations in the board where, if we did have to transfer, that we didn't end up having to transfer. You know what I mean? If the board makes a transfer, we do it in good faith because we know that line item has been identified, that we have a concern. And it's your job to alert us of the concern, and you do that, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the year, if we don't need the money in that line item, I think it should be brought back to the board that guess what? We didn't need it there. Because it sets you up for the next budget cycle of knowing what line item to look at, rather than in 200 pages of actuarials. I'm done.
If I may, to follow back on another item on the student-based health centers, I originally said that amount was somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000. The amount in the 24-25 budget is $60,000 allocated to that secretarial support piece.
I thought it was that much, yeah.
The monthly number.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't know if they billed it over 10 months or 12 months.
All right. Great. Thank you. You all set?
We need a motion. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
All right. So,
So we have the motion, we just need to vote.
no, I have to state it first. Well, we already stated it. Now we need to, we've had our discussion. So all those in favor? Against? It's unanimous. We're good. Thanks. All right. Next item, policy for revisions recommended for first read. There's no motion associated with this. I just wanted to point out one thing. I appreciate the highlighting and the crossing out, especially when we got hundreds of pages to read. That really.
Yes,
really
so
helps.
that's the work of Dr. Patty Foote, policy consultant extraordinaire. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And now that we're not doing rewrites anymore and we're just doing like changes, it's so much easier to identify what's being changed. So it is much easier, I agree.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. So,
Chair Eric?
Yes.
Hey,
Come on,
could I just ask one other thing? I know we've made this revision, this is wonderful. Would it be possible, because we have different, like, I'm on page 1 of 8 right now, but you can see that this is not actually 8 pages. So is it possible to just number the pages so that we know we're one of 275 or one of 170? Can we do that? Because I know we're incorporating a lot of documents.
Computer, it'll tell you what page you're on, but I think they get this information from various different spots.
I understand.
Yes, the only way we'd be able to do that is to print one out, number it by hand, and then scan it in for everybody.
No.
Well, no numbering. Get a PDF reader.
Okay.
Ezekiel.
No, thank you. I don't want to waste that money.
Oh, no, it's just-
All right. Enough of that. Let's move on to policies for second review and approval. I'm not going to read them all. You can read that. So I need a motion to approve the following policies. Now I'll read them. 2500, retention and disposition of records and information. 4131, 4231, social media. 5112, policy regarding admission to the public schools at or before age 5. 518.1, homeless children and youth. 5125, confidentiality and access to education records. 5131.9, student use of the district's computer system and internet safety. 5141.5, suicide prevention and intervention. 5158, policy to improve the completion rates of the free application for federal financial aid, FAFSA. I forgot what that acronym was for. 1330, policy regarding use of school facilities. 3160, board budget procedures and line item transfers. 3260, disposal of obsolete or surplus equipment and materials. 3280, policy regarding gifts, grants, and requests. Bequests. Is that a typo? I'm not familiar with
Bequest
that.
is a,
Bequest.
yes,
Yeah,
like
thank
a
you.
gift, sometimes after death, yes.
To the district, 3,300 purchasing and 3,453 school activity funds. So we need a motion to approve that.
Second?
Okay, we have Tom and was that Dean?
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're now open to discussion. Okay, I don't see any hands coming up, so let's And all those in favor? Against? Passes unanimously. Next item. We were talking about this earlier. Bylaws not required, but the board may wish to retain them after review for compliance. So we need a motion needed to retain the following bylaws. I'll read them. 90,005, which is the role of the board and its members, parentheses, integrity. 9115, annual organization meeting of the board. 9125, attorney. 9132, standing committees. 9150, board consultants. 9160, students' involvement in decision-making. 9230, orientation of new board members. 9240, board member development. 9271, code of ethics. 9325.2, order of business. 9400, monitoring products and processes, parentheses, self-evaluation. 9410, public announcements and accomplishments. And 9420, recognition of accomplishments by citizens, students, staff members, or the board. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Oh, Randy. And open for some discussion right now.
If I may just really quickly, these, while they are not mandated, do show in the 9000 series how we run our business. And so I do think it's important to retain them.
Any more discussion here? Okay, great. All those in favor? Against? Opposed, I should say? It's unanimous. Passes. All right. Now, bylaws for second review and approval. I need a motion to approve the following bylaw. 90,005, official duties, the assistant secretary.
So moved.
Second.
Brian. Jamie and Brian. Any discussion?
Again, not mandated, but it's a position that we have here, and there should be a job description, so to speak.
That's a great idea.
No.
All right.
Didn't know that they have an actual position.
Very good then. Any more? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous again. And finally, at the end here, just items of information. We're not going to be doing any motions or anything for this, but they're all written out for you to review. Some everyone's already checked it out before the meeting. Then we have the employment report for March of 2025.
Yes, so you can see on the employment report, I like to point out that in May, we do our retiree recognition. I just like to note that on this employment report, you can see the certified staff retirements, 22 years, 26 years, and 29 years in the district are just, significant contributions to the school district. So, and we love to acknowledge those people in our May meeting, and we will. That's that for that.
Very nice. It's on the page, that's good. Okay, enrollment report, which is just below the employment report.
Yes, you can see the, if you look at the bottom left-hand box, you can see that enrollment is relatively stable and also very close to the enrollment projections that took place in 2021.
Very good. Ongoing facilities projects. Matt.
So for ongoing projects, we have a RFP has been posted for the gutter seam repairs at New Milford High School. We also have an RFP that's been posted for the canopy roof repairs at Hill and Plain School. Both of those bids will be open on April 4th. We had site visits at both locations this past Saturday, and several contractors showed up. We also have Weston and Sampson is currently developing the scope for the eventual replacement of the underground storage tank at Scotticoke. Once their work is complete, then we will post an RFP for the actual construction phase of that project, and that bid should go out here in April.
Great, thank you. Field trip report. Pilato.
Thank you. You can see our winter garden, our winter percussion going out, including to Dayton, Ohio. You can see some of the Hill and Plain and Northville trips to Sarah Noble when they do their transition visits. So people are going out in the world, and I like to see that.
Well, yeah, traveling there. All right, gifts and donations.
There are no gifts and donations, no. And the fundraising is, you can see a lot of the high school clubs fundraising. And the PTO is, of course, at all the schools.
It's okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Didn't need to ask.
We're
8:09. 8:09 p.m.
Looking right at me.
All right, good job, Eric.
Eric crushed it.
Eric, you did. You nailed it.
Nobody disagreed.
This is nice, I'll sleep.
Yeah, me too.